Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner in crime, Mark Wages. He'd be the other captain on this boat. So, first of all, I'm pretty happy to be here. I really am. This is the last 2 days have been a struggle, fam. This is the weekend where I do the Watch Expo, and I normally have a partner, right? So you have an opportunity to walk around, you have an opportunity to go to the bathroom, get something to drink. But I got a $250,000 in inventory sitting at this booth. I can't really just go to the bathroom and leave it there. So it was 2 days of being on my feet, literally just sitting there. It really is a struggle at best. But yeah. And, one more quick bone to pick with you people. I don't know whether Steve has just, dropped the ball completely, but did you see that in the back? Like, nobody noticed this?
He noticed it the first night.
He did?
Yeah, he said, "What's the hat on that thing on the back there?"
That's R2D2 is who that is. I picked up R2. I picked up R2 the first day at the show. I was able to get R2. That R2 actually talks and responds and dances. And yeah, it's a pretty wild little thing, especially for how old it is, that it still works and it's got the manual and the handbook with it. It's definitely
cool,
a lot of fun. 30 years.
Wow. That's
yeah.
So
well, almost.
cool.
It's about 27-ish.
That's cool.
Yeah, it really is. So, I understand, Tommy, I used to have to watch my bro-in-law's booth. Yeah, it's a struggle. It really is. But if you've been on the boat long enough, you probably remember, I don't think it was the last show. I think it was the show before that, but it had a very similar effect on me that this did. So some of you have heard something similar to this show before, so you'll just have to bear with me. The good thing is, since we never script anything, it always sounds different anyway. We talk a lot on the lifeboat about what can sink you. There's just a lot of talk about, avoid this pitfall, don't do that. This can get you. Make sure you don't do this. By the way, we're hated. That no matter how hard you sort of try, there's a bit of a negative undertone that's just part of what we do. And, there's really no way to avoid that. Thank you, Brandon. Good to have you back, my brother. And you're looking good in blue. He was green there for a while. I'm not sure why that happened. So what we don't talk a lot about is, the things that keep you going, the things that work, what makes things happen. And, if I look at everybody that I've worked with in the last year and a half, or if I take this back to when I was in prison and everybody that I've worked with since I started trying to help people get sober,
One of the things that's a common thread through everything is all of the people that make it seem to have a passion above and beyond just getting sober. And, Mark talks about creating new memories. We talk about, different, brand new people, places, and things. We talk about not doing the same stuff. And we talk about how the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And those connections very often are to people. But it's amazing to watch people who really have a passion for whatever. And when you go to shows like this is not by definition a watch show. I'm usually the only vintage watch broker at these shows. Occasionally, you'll get some people that sell pocket watches. For the most part, you got people that sell vinyl, right? And they've got the biggest record collection you've ever seen. And then there's the gold coin guy, right? And this whole table is filled with gold and silver coins. And there's a guy that sells nothing but guns that could never fire again. Like these are guns that are found in dirt. Someone has to dig these things up. They're actually so cool to look at. They end up wall hangers and things like that, but they're just dirty, greasy, grimy, rusty, disgusting looking old weapons. But this guy lives for them. He lives for going around and finding them, right? And then there are a lot of people who just sort of collect everything. But the common thread is that if you go to talk to any of these people, the passion that they've got, if you go there and you give somebody an opportunity to talk about what they got, their eyes light up. And I'm no different. Somebody walks up to the booth and says, do you have any Rolexes? And it's always a joke because they figure at an antique show, there's not going to be anybody selling Rolexes, right? So it's really a standard joke. The first time I did it, I didn't bring any because I didn't know what I was, what kind of crowd we were going to get. Noise Opera, good to see you, my brother. Thank you. So now I do. And a guy came up this morning and said, hey man, you got any Rolexes? I'm like, yeah, it's to the other end. Come down here. I got a bunch. And we started to talk. This guy, as it turns out, is a vendor. And I brought up the lifeboat. I started talking about, because I told him, he goes, you look a little tired. I said, yeah, last night I went home. I had to do the lifeboat. And then I had a couple of watches that I had to repair, one of which was 220 years old. I'm a little stressed out on that number. But so I started to tell him, and he goes, the lifeboat thing, it's a YouTube channel. It's about watches. I said, no, man, I help people get sober. And instantly the guy said to me, yeah, I've been sober 9 years. I said, good for you, man. I said, wow, it's cool. I said, it's nice to know that there's somebody else here that, that fought that, someone else here that's sober. He said to me, are you kidding? I said, no.
Like
he
that,
goes,
aren't they?
dude, there isn't anybody in this room that didn't have a drug or alcohol problem at one time. He said, I've been coming here for 25 years to this exact same show. And he said, and I know everybody in here. He said, there's nobody. He goes, I could point out the guys that had problems with coke. He said the vast majority of the room had problems with meth because that was a real thing in this part of the country for a long, long time. So he said, no, everybody here. And so I'm sitting there in the booth and I'm thinking about this. This is actually yesterday, by the way. And I'm sitting there thinking about it. And it really is one of those things. Why is it? Why is it that so many people seem to gravitate toward these kind of things, after getting sober? And what it is that these people find a passion. It's one of the things that keeps them sober. And it doesn't matter what that passion is. I'll be real honest, people. My partner and I have a passion for doing exactly what we're doing right now. Honestly, to do this 5 days a week, every week for an entire year, and then next year we'll just do it again. There really needs to be a passion. And we work with a lot of you.
Wow.
We work with a lot of you one-on-one, and we lose very often. You understand that? We lose a lot. We would never, you never want to put anybody on blast, but Mark and I could go through a greatest hits album here of some people that, not only didn't make it, but really, really didn't make it. And in the process, did some damage to us in our, in our hope, honestly. So, but
it does. It really does hurt, doesn't it, Tommy? It does hurt.
It does.
It doesn't.
It absolutely does. Because
we get to know them. It's like,
and you really, we know that inside every single person that's struggling is the best version of them. There's nobody that's not the truth about. You understand? You know, if you drank for 45 years and you did a fifth a day and you eventually got to that, you know, what they call wet brain, where literally you get water on the brain from how much drinking you've done. And there's no hope. I mean, at that point, these people are, but inside there is still the best version of that cat. He may not ever be able to get there again, or she might not, but they're still there. That potential is in every single person who's addicted. So again, I start looking at all of these people, and every one of them has something. And the people who have the most always describe that this was a much easier process for them. It really is. Yeah. It's you take Johnny, right? My brother. If you've ever watched any of the interviews we did, Heather Hatch, good to see you, Heather. Any of the interviews I did with Johnny, he says, you know, he feels guilty because he put down the bottle and there was never a relapse. There was never any of that. And, you know, Johnny was an alcoholic for a long time. He drank daily for a real long time and a real struggle with it. And he said, you know, it doesn't make sense to me because I hear everybody else. It makes sense to me as he was just really starting to quit this. He was getting to about 80,000 people on his channel. And it was really becoming a thing. And he had just started to release all of the products that they do over at the, you know, he has the Tube of Terror and all of these other things that he sells through Blazing Foods. And he started to work with Blazing Foods one-on-one. And that was right around the same time that he linked up with his girl, an Australian girl. So every minute of every day, the guy's got something to do, right? Something that he really is passionate about. And while he was drinking, you know, he put down the guitar. This was something that really meant a lot to him. And he spent so much time drinking that it was not something he did while he was buzzed. You know, there are people that love to, you know, to drink and play the guitar or whatever. That was never my brother. Scooby the Budding Queen, good news here for my second day here. I haven't had a cigarette all day today. I'm sorry I had to stop for that.
No, that's great.
Good
that's
for
great
you.
Stuff,
that
man.
is awesome. That really is awesome.
Yeah,
and you know what?
I have to say
tough habit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That has to be one of the toughest ones that we hear about, or people that go through. I've never smoked, so I don't understand that addiction. But a lot of people here do. I know they do. Yeah. Anyway.
The real problem is it's the fastest delivery system of any drug. And people like to argue this point with me. But again, it's one of those things that, you know, feel free to argue. You're just wrong. This is a complete and utter medical fact. The fastest way to get something into your bloodstream is through smoking it. And it's the same principle as getting oxygen, right? We do this very efficiently, or we would fall down and die. With every breath, you're just dumping a little bit of oxygen in every blood cell that's going around your body at about 120 miles an hour. Now, instead of putting in just oxygen, you put in nicotine, and it gets it to your system that quick. So as people start to fight, you know, to quit this stuff, it's like, you know, anytime I got stressed out, I lit a cigarette, and that fast, the drug that helped you get unstressed is already in your system. So yeah, it's a really vicious habit. So Scooby, congratulations. That's awesome. It's a damn good start. Yep. It really is. That's an awesome start. I'm Crazy Brumfield says, there used to be a resident where I work who was handicapped after a suicide attempt. Some of my coworkers treated him with scorn, but I felt that wasn't the way to be. You know what? It's a perfect comment for last night. You know what? There are people on this planet that are going to drag you down. If you ever watch the beginning of the Lifeboat, the video I shoot, it's a fact, right? We don't do mean people here. We don't. And there's a reason for that. The reason is there are so many people that like to be cruel for the sake of being cruel. And it's a devastating thing. It really is. Those people are cancer. And the only way to deal with that is to cut them out of your life. You know, God bless you for treating the guy the way that he needs to be treated. Nobody should be treated with scorn for anything that they've done. Unless it's just malicious. I'll be honest with you. There are some people that have committed certain crimes. You know, I lived in prison for a long time, and there are people whose crime was something that I will never be able to forgive a person for. I don't need to go down the greatest hit list of the things that are just damned foul, but there are a list of things that I honestly could never forgive somebody for doing. But Outside of that, I'm not going to judge people for the things that they've done. Again, inside of every one of those people, whether they're a drug addict, a convict, whatever, there is the best version of that person, and it just needs help getting out. Sad but true. What we're doing right here, right now, on the lifeboat. This is, Ilea says, mean people need more hugs. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to that, right?
Yep.
We had the banner that said, you know what? Hate the hate. Don't hate the haters, because so often they're just people that are miserable.
Yep. Yep.
They say a butterfly can't see its own wings. I wonder if angels are sort of the same. I guess it's hard to tell because we haven't all entertained angels without knowing. That's a really cool concept and a really cool comment. One of the best illustrations for what we do comes from butterflies, and I revisit this thing pretty often on the lifeboat. If you see a caterpillar, whip that cocoon around itself, and then it's going to basically liquefy itself right inside. It's amazing how that whole process works, but it is going to become a butterfly, and when it does, it starts to chew. Right, a little hole through the side of that cocoon, and it's going to pull itself through a hole that is really, really teeny. Well, growing up, where I lived in Vermont, the monarch butterflies are everywhere. So when you're a little kid, every single springtime come around, you would see those things everywhere. Right, those little cocoons were everywhere. So we used to grab them and put them in a little jar. Right, poke holes in the top, and you would watch this whole thing happen. And what we always wanted to do, as soon as you saw that hole, you just want to make it bigger, right?
Yeah.
Make this easy, because it looks like such a struggle for these animals. You break that hole bigger, they will never fly.
Yep.
And they will be dead really quickly. The process of pulling itself through that little hole, which just looks so painful, is how this thing goes from being nothing to being a butterfly. And it's something that is, hold on one second. Miss Dragon says, I could use some extra prayers, positive energy for my granddaughter. She's got RSV and a double ear infection. Everybody hear that? That's,
we need prayers.
I know yesterday
ones
she left a comment that said, what's that?
Ones in the chat for that, guys.
Yeah, go get some ones. Yesterday, there was a comment there where she said, you know what? She fell asleep during the boat, and afterwards she looked like just a happy and healthy infant. So we would very much like to see that come back. So everybody, you know what to do, right? For those of you who pray, do that. For those of you who go ahead.
Here's an interesting comment, Tommy. I think is really cool. Full of hope. I'll put it up there. It says they have released that the butterfly retains the memory of the caterpillar. Now, wow. Ain't that cool?
Well, yeah, yeah.
And I think that it actually applies to what we do here, honestly. Because as we break out of that, do we forget who we were? No, God, no. We didn't forget. We're just a better version of that, and we're breaking out of all that nastiness. So just understand that, guys. That's I'm glad you put that up there, Full of Hope, because it really
no,
does,
it really is.
Really
it's a very, very cool comment.
Yep.
This again, we catch crap, and it's not from people that have been on the boat for any length of time. It's usually people who first get here. When they hear us say things like, hey, you got to own your past, right? It requires you saying, yeah, you know what? I was a dirtbag. I did this, this, and this. And I'm not saying you gotta shout it from the hilltops. I do, but I'm not saying you do. Everybody needs something different, but I absolutely need to do this. Me not forgetting exactly who and what I was is a really, really important part of my sobriety. It really is. But one of the reasons that we hammer so hard on owning your past is, like Mark was saying, do we forget, where we come from? If you do, you won't have to worry about it because you'll figure it out again real quick. You will get reminded of exactly what you were the first time you start to forget it. And if anybody that's been sober for any length of time has gone through that moment where you go, you know what? I'm a lot different right now than I used to be. I guarantee you that I could do, insert your substance of choice. I could do it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and then not do it. I know I could. I am not the same person I used to be. Let me save you some time. No, you can't. Right? No, you can't. You can go out and try that if it really makes you feel good. You're going to relapse. You're going to fall down, and then you're going to have to get up and do it again. And we'll be here. We won't even pick on you. Right? We'll welcome you back with open arms. But trust and believe. The cause of that is forgetting who we are.
Yep.
You know, people hate this as a concept, you know, but you're always going to be an addict. There's nothing you can do to cure that. There has never been a cure for drug addiction.
And
are there other forms of addiction, debt, gambling, etc.? Get out of debt. Oh, see that? Every time I try to read something, hold on. Get out of debt and keep it that way. Sobriety is not just addiction to drugs and alcohol. I'm debt free. Good for you. That is absolutely an addiction. Good for you.
Yeah, it is. 100.
Anything where your brain gets off of the tracks, so to speak, right? The reward center of your brain, the one that causes endorphins, dopamines, all of the feel-good chemicals to get pushed out into your brain and into your body. Those things are there, in theory, to ensure that you don't neglect things that are going to keep you healthy, prosperous, and keeping the human race going. So the heaviest doses we get are when they hand you your child. You think about a screaming baby. Can you imagine if you weren't in love with that child instantly when they handed it to you? Because that's a chemical reaction in the brain. I'm not saying it's not beautiful, but it's a chemical reaction in the brain, right? The reward center says, yeah, it makes a lot of noise. It craps all over itself, but don't throw it out. This thing is really important.
Yep.
And without that chemical, you would go, yeah, I'm not dealing with this thing. I mean, all this thing does is scream. And regardless, we bond with it instantly. That's the reward center in the brain. That's how it is supposed to work. It's one of the other reasons that sex is a really good time, because it was essential that we continue to do it or the species stops, right? So that is the way it is supposed to be, right?
Daniel kind of echoed you there a little bit. It says a lot of people don't think addiction can also come in the form of a deep buzz, ding, or bang. He said electronic devices.
Absolutely.
Dopamine is
absolutely
highly addictive. That's what he said.
Yeah, when we talked about TikTok, the company has the most advanced AI on the planet with only one goal. They talk about gathering this and gathering that. They're going to do that. Everything does that, honestly. I mean, they all do it, right? Any platform you're on is stealing your information. If you don't believe that, then you're just lost. And you can do a VPN and do all of those things. The danger of that is not that. The danger is that it is figuring out exactly what you watch that trips that dopamine shot. And you put somebody on a PET scan while they're off doing this and clicking and clicking and clicking. It's cocaine. Mm-hmm. It mirrors, it doesn't mirror other drugs. That's the drug it mirrors. That little hit of dopamine that makes you go, oh, I got to do that again, right? And it doesn't last very long. It really mirrors exactly what goes on with cocaine. But when that reward center is working perfectly, we are, air quotes, normal. When it gets off of the rails, you get rewarded for TikTok. You get rewarded for playing video games. You get rewarded for running up a debt on your credit card, right? Or gambling, or any one of the, any habit. You can get addicted to things that, you hear some of the things that people are addicted to and you go, how's that possible? Trust and believe they're looking at you and saying the same thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? The guy stuck needles in his arms. I mean, good God, like I can see playing with TikTok, but well, nobody really thinks that other addictions are crazy, right? That their addiction is crazy. It's always somebody else's that, but no, you can be, congratulations on being debt free. It's something that you see very often, one way or the other, right? So people get sober, and a lot of times you get these people who are like, you know what, I'm never going down that road again, right? I'm not going to owe $1. I'm not going to do this. And they get incredibly frugal. I have met people that serotonin is a feel-good chemical, which is also addictive.
Yep.
However, it tends to, right? Serotonin is
Not
also
the
really tied to sleep.
Yep.
Dopamine's dangerous because you can just do it from 6 o'clock in the morning until midnight. If you get really big blasts of serotonin,
I think
more often than not, you're not going to. It's not going to be an all day kind of a thing.
I think there's something to tie here too, together with the passion that we're trying to talk that we find in our lives to kind of take the place of our, not really take the place, but kind of help us through the addiction. Those kinds of things can actually, if you're not careful, can turn into an addiction, because they can most certainly turn you into something you don't want to be. You just gotta
quickly.
Yeah. So you have to be able to understand that, and that's why we're talking about it. Because if you don't understand that kind of a concept, you can very easily lean into something that's your passion, and then what it does is it starts affecting the other parts of your life in a negative way. And when that happens, that's no longer a passion. That's an addiction.
Absolutely.
If you have to go do it.
The difference between passions and addictions is a passion is healthy, right? And addictions are not.
Exactly.
Now, that said, there are passions that turn into addictions that just aren't that bad for you.
Right.
If you're addicted to reading books, I'm not worried about you, right? Really.
Exactly.
Maybe you read an extra 2 hours a day that you should be doing something else. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Right? I think you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And my brother, I mean, if the amount of spice that my brother consumes, even when compared to people who like spice, it's absolutely astounding, right? He is absolutely addicted to eating hot things. However, compared to the other things that he did in his life, I think it's awesome. It's a very healthy addiction. Working out, you can get addicted to working out. You can get addicted to yoga. You can get addicted to so many things that are a lot healthier than what we're doing now. And is it trading one addiction for another? You know, anytime people say that, I am the world's biggest fan of trading one addiction for another. Love it. I think it's a great concept. Providing the addiction that you're swapping out is a whole lot better than the one you were doing. I got no bad mouth. I don't have time to bad mouth that. It doesn't make any sense to me. You understand what I'm saying, people? So if you say, well, yeah, he traded doing this for yoga, that's a problem. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Or the people who go, he got addicted to going to meetings, right?
Well, even,
so you'd rather have him shoot and smack, or
you can even go down this road with it too, Tommy. You can even go take it to the level, and this actually can be an issue. I get it. Trading like heroin or oxys for Suboxone. I did. When I went to do that, I most certainly traded one addiction for another. But am I a better person? Yeah, I am. And I'm working to get, working through all that. I've been on it for a while, and I've actually titrated down some. Tommy's working on that now also. So, and that's just one of those things that you deal with. Are we better people for it? Absolutely. I had my best friend just asked me this the other day. Don't you feel like you just traded one for the other? And we talked about this a bunch. But he said, and I said, what do you, how can you justify that? I said, well, it gave me my family back. I said, that's how.
One happens to be a whole lot healthier than the other.
And I told him, listen, dude, that's all you need to know right there. He said, yep, you're right.
Drops. What a great comment. I'm serious. This is a great comment. Hey, did I just see hi ho to Kermit the Frog?
Yeah, I just popped up. Yep.
Good to see you. I like it when Trinity stops by.
Yep.
Drops Family Garden says the biggest addiction you can swap out for another is caring and loving for your fellow man or woman. Do you know what's funny? That's a fact. Honestly, one of the greatest things that you can get addicted to, and don't think I'm making this up. Do a little deep dive. Do some research on this. Serving others in whatever form that takes. And I don't mean getting paid to serve others. I mean, out of the goodness of your heart, you go down and you work at a soup kitchen, or you go down and you do this, or you volunteer for this charity. Giving back to people, that servitude fires everything that you could possibly fire at the same time in your brain. It does amazing, amazing things.
You got to hear this one. This one's cracking.
Give it to me.
It's me. I have to go back and find it. I'll just read it to you. It says, it was from Christopher Allen. He said, I bought a ukulele and tried to play it at home, drove my dad nuts for 30 minutes. He told me to turn it down. I said, would you rather me be drinking for 30 minutes? Then he said, okay, never mind. I love it. Love it. That's
funny.
Awesome.
My daughter is a ukulele player, and I've always been of the firm belief that it's one of the few instruments on the planet that is frustrating, even if it's played well. But that's just it's a humble opinion. No, it is one of those instruments that, especially if it's played, not quite on, it can grate on you. But yeah, absolutely a fact. People, look, do a little deep dive. Anytime I say something and you think, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, just go Google it and do a little deep dive. But servitude, what it does inside the brain is it is literally one of the healthiest things that you can possibly do. And it will get you back on track faster than just about anything. I have my daughter doing that now. She gets it. She loves donating time to the community. Good. You should teach that when someone's young. That's the greatest thing that you could teach them. And there is a reason that this is the final step on 12-step programs, right? Having had a spiritual awakening, we felt like we had to bring this to others. It's not just to keep the program going. You get it? It's because once you have all of those other things on the list all worked out, well, that's really when you're in danger, right? It's like climbing a mountain. You get to the top of the mountain and there's a postpartum blues that happens when you're done. Guys that train their whole life to do an Ironman triathlon. When it's done, they go, now what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like the dog that chases a car. What do you do when you get a hold of it? Well, that happens. There's a reason. It's so, honestly, I don't love 12-step programs. They don't work for me. But good God, what a great concept. Here's step 1, make sure you do it. Here's step 2, work on that. Here's step 3. And they keep them going, right? And there's one thing to do after another. So you never really have time to sort of go back into yourself. You're always working on something. And while you're working on something, you're creating new contacts, points of contacts with people who are sober. It really is a great concept. But when all of those are taken care of, right, you get past 11, in their wisdom, they thought, now we got to get these people addicted to helping others. Because if we get them addicted right now to helping others, they're going to be set. And that really is the way it is.
Yeah.
Hello to all my fantastic friends here on the boat. You are all rock stars, and I love you all. Rip Curl, good to have you here. Wow, the gang is all here this evening, huh?
We got some good talkative crowd.
We really do.
Yeah,
this is the A team.
This is what we try to do. This is what we try to accomplish because we love it when everybody's involved and everybody just kind of talking and being, because that tells us we're kind of hitting on something you guys want to hear about, and talk about.
And you know what, people, there is so much great content that is being put up on YouTube these days, for real.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like, great, honest, perfect example. If you're sitting around and you're in your own head, and like we said, get outside, right? Walk outside, get a deep breath of oxygen, do whatever. But if you're back in and you're having a difficult time getting things going, you can go to Rip, right? You can go to Marfugel, you can go to Trinity. All of these people are putting up content that is not going to make you want to go get high.
Yep.
Right. And very often you're going to run into the same people in the chat, and that's awesome. It really is. You see a lot of the same kind of activity, whether it's here or somewhere else. Everybody's sort of taking care of one another and, hey, how you doing? Everything all right? This is really a cool system. It was funny. I was telling somebody, was that? And yeah, forgot wages. Oh yeah, there's wages. No, you're right. I'm definitely working well with my steps. Sadly, a few people won't talk to me, but maybe someday they'll acknowledge my changes. If not, it's okay. You know what?
We'll talk to you.
Yeah, number one, we'll talk to you. But there are a couple of reasons that happens. Jackson, we love you. There's a couple of reasons that happens. And it is a phenomenon. Make no mistake. Whether you're doing it in the 12 steps, right, or whether you're doing it anyway, half of the people are drug addicts, right? They have a problem or they're addicted to something, and they look at you and think, why the hell is he getting sober or she getting sober, right? What's going on? And it's like you hold up a big mirror to every single person that, they don't see you. They see themselves. Only they see themselves not doing what you're doing. And it makes them question you. I just rather not look at that mirror. If it's all the same with you, I just don't want to look at it. So they will write you out of their life. The other half of the people don't know what to say. People get terminal illnesses, right? I've had a little experience. I know a lot of people that have been through some really tough stuff medically. And very often the people that love them the most have no idea what to say to them, right? And because of that, they tend to go their other way. And they always assume that there's one or two people that are probably right there for them anyway. So I'm just going to, I'll wait until they start feeling better. I just don't know what to say. And pretty soon there's nobody talking to that individual. There's also a group of people that believe that sobriety is a cult. For real. If you knew how many times I've heard people say that 12-step programs are like a cult. You know what, people? They're a pretty good cult.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the one you're going down, they're not preaching the end of the world, and they're not asking you for cash, right? So they're probably not a cult. Those two things tend to.
Yep. That's easy.
Hi everyone. I'm just lurking and listening while I pack up my abuser's things to put in the shed. Well, have fun doing that, right? I'm glad that you're listening, but
break
here we
break a few things, would you?
Yeah. If you happen to drop something, don't worry about it. Okay? Just kick it across the room. Go pick it up. You'll be all right. Life is the real illness. Number one leading cause of passing. Bad joke. But hey, while we're here, I love you all. You know what? There's something to that, right? There's it's tough to get off of this planet alive. It really is. The thought of that is, believe it or not, one of those things that drive a lot of people to use. There are a lot of people that cannot face their own mortality. And for some, they think about it, they focus on it, they're fixated on it. And for some, they don't even realize they're doing it. Right. But if you look at all of the animals on the planet, they say that we're the only one that really understands our own mortality. Right. The cats aren't sitting around talking about how long you think you got. What are you, about 11? You're getting pretty old, aren't you? Yep. None of that happens. It's pretty unique to our experience here. So I don't know, people. That's the kind of thing that bothered me when I was in the life, honestly, because I felt like I'm going to go and I'm going to be the world's biggest dirtbag in the process. Today, a woman came by. I actually bought a couple of watches from this woman. And we got to talking, and she mentioned that 30 days ago today, she lost her son. And today was his birthday. So this is a tough day for this woman, but she was keeping a pretty stiff upper lip for most of the conversation. She cried at the end of it. But I said, do you mind if I ask you, what happened? And she said, he died in a car wreck. She said, apparently he was hit by a truck, and she said it was instant. She knows that there was absolutely no suffering because there was nothing left of this car, like nothing. The front bumper was in the back seat kind of thing. It was just completely crushed. And she said that was one of the only things that really gave her peace. And then she said the saddest part is he was a heroin addict for a really long time. And I said, oh, man. She said, and he got sober 6 months ago. He's been completely sober for 6 months. He got a job. He got this. She's like, it's so sad. I said, you know what? Man, that's better than the alternative.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If he, I said, do you believe in a higher power? She said, I do. I said, then you got to believe he met his maker sober. How cool is that? Yep. Right. And
I'm sure
we had a really good talk.
She got her son back for 6 months too.
Correct. Exactly. And there's some peace. By the way, Brandon, thank you, my brother. I really appreciate that.
I'm very proud of you for that too. That's a hard one to quit for a lot of people because it's so accessible and easy to go see porn. It really is.
Right.
It really is. I mean, if anybody in here is honest, I mean, come on. It's one of those things that all of us have to be like, nah, I don't want to look at that right now. But
do you know the worst problem with that addiction? The worst problem with that addiction is that every person you talk to, if you say to them, that you're addicted, what's your addiction? Porn. They'll go, who cares? I look at that 4 times a month. What's the big deal? The big deal becomes if you're using this as a coping mechanism. If you think, man, I'm so stressed out, I got to go watch porn. That regardless of what you're doing, if it becomes your coping mechanism, if your ability to get through the day hinges on something other than just being you, then it's not healthy. Plain and simple, it's not healthy. And I'm not even going to get into women aren't treated real well and all of the other nice stuff I could say about porn. Let's keep that real. But and it's degrading and blah, blah.
All that.
It's all that. It's just not. It's definitely something that you're better off, especially if you're addicted to it, and it does take guts. I got a lot of respect for him. And I remember we were working with you for a while before he came in one day and said, you know what? I'm not comfortable not telling everybody this.
Yeah.
I remember that show.
I remember that
I was
too.
like, damn, good man.
Hey, check this out, dude. You'll love this one. Full of Hope says, she wanted to know if you seen her comment last night about the Rolex Oyster. Said her husband.
I did not.
Said her. Check this out, dude. You're gonna hit the floor. My ex-husband bought a $20 jacket in a thrift shop, and it was in the pocket. Woohoo!
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Where is this thrift store? I hear these stories in this town, in the town I live in. A woman bought a couch and it had a Daytona Cosmograph in it. And she thought, this has got to be fake. She said her son was wearing it to school, right? Her 13-year-old son wore it to school for about 2 weeks. And then somebody came by and went, that's not fake. So she sold it and paid off her house. It's a pretty valuable watch.
Yep.
I got to go fly on an airplane in December. It'll be the first time I've been on a plane sober. Nice. I'm thinking about eating a ghost pepper on the flight.
Oh.
I hope they don't take me. They don't
remember the
take me to the seat.
Remember the bathroom's really small.
Film it. If you're gonna eat a ghost pepper on a plane, film it. The number of people that I came across in the who are incarcerated in the federal system. It's not like most places, in the federal system, they can send you from where you're at to Maine, right? You can go from this side of the country to that side of the country. They decide where you're going to go. There's no rhyme or reason to it. They don't try to keep you near your house or any of that, but you fly Con Air. You actually get on, like the movie, you get on an airplane, although it's just a 727 or a 737 that, you're handcuffed, you're shackled. It's not a great ride, but I made probably 6 of those flights. And I remember the day that I got out, I was flying from Oregon to Nevada and just getting on a plane that I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like everybody in there was complaining about this or that. I'm like, you got to be kidding. This is awesome, right? You feel cramped. You should have a tattooed guy who weighs 300 pounds and is really angry sitting on both sides of you, right? This is nothing. But the number of people that I would fly with who would say, you know what, this is the first time I've ever been on a plane. And I would always think to myself, you talk about the worst first flight you could possibly come up with. Like, this is an awful way to first, to get your introduction to air travel shouldn't be Con Air.
Niall has a good one here. This is when I first got sober, I decided to buy a new pair of socks. I was walking around with no heels in my socks when I was drinking. Buying a new pair of socks was a major ordeal. Ha! Sock epiphany.
You know what? Niall, I'm so glad you said this. Honestly, I'm so glad you said this. The sock thing is unique. The story is not. I know so many people I've heard this story 100 different ways. I've heard people that first purchase that sort of said, I'm not that person anymore. I'm this person. You hear it for a coat. You hear it about socks. A lot of times it's people that say, you know what? I didn't care about time. I sell watches to people all the time who call them sobriety watches. Like they're now 6 months sober and their life is kind of in order and they want a talisman. They want something that's going to remind them. And I've heard this in every way you could possibly come up with, but socks was new. It really was. But that first, the first kind of purchase, I remember just being really freaked out of having money in my pocket. You know what I mean? Because it didn't matter how much money I made. I bought dope. Whether that was $1,000 or $10,000, I was going to buy dope with it, right? There was nothing else I was going to do with that money. So when I started doing, when I was working Joe jobs, when I first got out, I just banked money. Like I never had cash in my pocket anyway. But when I started the watch deal and it took off really quickly, it was way better than I thought it was going to be and bigger. And it just freaks me out anytime I pull out a wallet and there's money in it. And the craziest thing ever was the first time that this was one really freaked me out. The first time that I put on a pair of pants and I had 220s in the pocket, right? And I'm like, I hung these up with $40 in the pocket. You know what I mean? Number one, hanging up pants is something that never would have happened. But there was never a time where I didn't know where every penny that I had was because I needed to trade it very shortly, for 10 bags of heroin that were going to get me well. Bizarre.
Cooley has a good, he's got a question for you. One of my best friends is in early sobriety. I called him tonight and he was drunk. Any tips on how or when to approach him about it?
Great question. Really great question. Now, you can get 200 opinions on this. So what I'm giving you is mine. Number one, don't confront somebody when they're using.
Yeah.
Don't. Number one, they're going to lie to you and they're going to get angry and there's no hope. I also think it's way better if you can do it in person. If you can't, but if you can do it in person, lead with, you know what? I love you, man. I really do. I care about you. I would never say anything for any other reason than I love you. Listen, man, the next time you feel like you're going to use or drink or whatever, I want you to give me a call. And I don't want you to deny it and start yelling at me because that's old stuff. I'm not judging you. That's what we did when we were drunk or we were high or whatever, right? Somebody would say, hey, you look like you're using it. And you arch your back and you raise your voice because you found early on that you can back people off that way. Don't do that to me, right? This is completely out of respect and love, but you really sounded like you were loaded last night. I'm not mad at you, but next time call me first, right? No reason to lie to me. It's not going to do any good. And it's absolutely pointless, but, yeah, you definitely don't.
Drops actually has a really good comment here too. Says, they will, if you get them talking, they eventually will give you the solutions that they need.
Absolutely.
Just gotta listen.
Absolutely.
Just gotta listen to them, and when they say it, you have to point it out.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, you just said it, not me. That came out of you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, and let's be really honest. That's our entire job here.
Yep.
For myself and for Mark,
yep.
Every time we talk to one of you, you tell us what's wrong. You tell us what the solution is, exactly what you need to do differently. And then you thank us and hang up, right? That's how 99% of the calls go, because everybody knows it really is a great comment, Drops, because everybody really does know exactly what the problem is, right? They know what the problem is. Also, if I call somebody to confront them, I'm not doing it when they pick up the phone. I'm not going to do it when they pick up the phone. I'm going to talk to them and keep them on the phone for probably 4 or 5 minutes. And I have found if you're really tight with this person, there's a really good chance that as you're sitting there talking about nothing, they're going to say to you, you know what, I slipped up last night. And it's a lot better if they can tell you. It really is. It's a lot better if they can tell you. But there have been books written on how to do this. There are books that say, you tell them, hey, I drank the other night, so that they don't lie to anybody. It's the dumbest advice. I remember reading that and wanting to shred the book. Great idea. Let's teach you all to lie. Honesty is a great thing. If they don't tell you, you can just, hey, you know what? I love you. I love you. Really sounded like you were drinking the other night. If that's the case, I'm not mad at you. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not busting your chops. Just call me, right? If you feel like you're going to use, because I'm going to call you if I feel like I'm going to. We need to have people to lean on.
Right. Yeah.
Was there any ghost in the antique shop? I walked by an antique shop in Pueblo, Colorado, and I instantly felt like there were spider webs on my face. It was weird, but so am I. You know what? I was tasked once, and I will do this. I'm sure I'm going to get a laugh or two, but I was tasked at one point to we were cleaning up a decrepit building in Nevada, and I was on a work detail, so to speak, as part of my paying off the state, and I was with one of the biggest convicts you've ever seen in your life. They called him Woody. Guy had no neck. He's about six feet tall and just yoked. And our job was just to pick up beer bottles and cans and things like that. Well, this was a hotel that's 200 years old. It's been around forever in this part of the country. So old Western kind of stuff. And the word was the place was crazy. I mean, it was haunted. So we start walking in and putting the stuff into the bag. And he says to me, hey man, you might think I'm nuts, but it's just really cold where I'm standing. Right. And I was like, yeah, well, they say with hauntings, there's temperature changes. I'm thinking to myself, of course it is. Yeah. But this was a hot day in Nevada. We live in the high desert. And when I walked over to him, I got within about 3 feet of him, and it felt like it was about 20 degrees cooler than it was where I was standing. And there's no window, nothing to blow. So we looked at each other, and without saying a word, we decided to have a contest to see who could get to the exit fastest, and like pushing one another, everything we could do to get out of that building. I don't know if there are, I don't know if there were really ghosts or whatever, but I scared the hell out of myself in that building. That cold got my attention. I was out of there, out of there.
That's awesome.
And I go to New Orleans a lot, and when you see like room for rent or home for sale or whatever, it will say on the sign, haunted apartment, like on Bourbon Street, guaranteed to have a ghost. Like that. Some of the stuff I would read that and be like, damn, that's an odd way to advertise a home.
Austin's got a question here. It says, what's your opinion on using dreams when you're sleeping? They've been around more often lately, he says. Like maybe he catches some dreams, some lucid dreams or something while he's trying to recover or something. I'm assuming that's where he's going with that.
Yeah, here's the thing on that. My opinion on dreams. Number one, I feel like you can learn a lot from them. However, they not the way that you would think, right? There are actually books you can read on this that will say, okay, like if you dream about this is what's going on in your mind. And so often they don't match at all. Sometimes you have a dream and you're like, well, that makes sense. You feel like you and your significant other are really on the rocks, and you have a dream that your wife leaves you. You don't need a whole lot of help figuring that one out. But when you have the dreams so I had a dream that I was on a bus, right, with the ex-president of the United States, and we pulled up at the next stop, and a rhino got on. When you have those dreams that just make absolutely no sense, then you probably want to reach out or get online to read about them.
Yeah.
I think that paying attention to your dreams can really help you. I really do. And more often than not, like how many people right now who are listening to me say, I don't ever dream? I got news for you. You dream every single night, right? A bunch of times. If you don't dream, you will go nuts. For real. I told you this. I told Mark this. I probably told the boat this. But when I was in college, I did a sleep study. I got paid to do a sleep study. And they had two really attractive co-eds who sat there and watched you sleep. And you could get all the sleep you wanted until your eyes started doing the rapid eye movements, right? They would wake you up. And then they would ask you a series of questions and have you write something down on a piece of paper. And over the course of a 4-day period of time, you were not allowed to dream in any way.
Oh.
And at the end of that, they offered you the exact same amount of money that you had already been paid to do that amount of one more day, right? So most of the people said, no, I'm good. And I'm like, I'm taking the money, right? You're going to pay for one more day. Halfway through that last day, I was seeing things. Like I was having conversations with my mom who was 300 miles away. I was absolutely hallucinating. Wow. You dream every single night. What happens is you don't remember them.
Yep.
Right. So if you put your journal, right, because you all have a journal, you put your journal next to the side of the bed. And when you wake up, write down what's ever in your head. It doesn't have to be lucid. It doesn't have to make sense. Like you write down bus stop rhino ex-president. And anybody that reads that's going to go, what the hell is that? But you'll pick it up and read it, and instantly you'll know exactly what that dream was, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, write them down in your journal. I think that there's something to them. I think that it's probably, there's a lot going on. If you think about what the whole concept behind dreaming, right? This is your brain's way of working through stuff that you couldn't do on your own.
That's exactly
right?
what I was getting ready to say. I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
Your brain actually has to figure that out.
That's it.
There's stuff that isn't in your conscious mind that's always hitting your subconscious. You just don't even know it. So your brain's always working, even when you're sleeping. And then that's what Tommy's trying to say there. And we gotta recognize that, and we gotta allow it time to heal. I mean, that's kind of what it's doing. When you're sleeping, and it's one of the biggest reasons why your body actually heals 50% faster when you're sleeping. And
absolutely,
I know a lot of people don't
absolutely
know that,
your mind and your body.
Yeah, your body's healing.
Lady Crispin says, "Love you guys." At Wages World, DJ Daddio, Mr. T, asked for prayers and thoughts for his father-in-law. He's in the hospital from a possible stroke today. 79 years old. You know what, people? I really love everybody on this boat. It's the truth. I really do. But there are some people that just jump out for one reason or another. They've said things in the past, or we've communicated in such a way. I love this guy. I really do. He's one of the kindest people that I've ever met. And he's a great dad. He's just a really solid guy. DJ Daddio is awesome. I would love it if we all could keep his father-in-law in our thoughts and prayers, and DJ, Mr. T as well.
Yeah.
He's this is going to be difficult. This is a really tough thing for the people who aren't afflicted. It's a tough thing when the oldest people in your life are struggling. It's a really, really bad thing. I've been there and done that. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lady Fiona. If we could all do that, that would be great.
I've been through that personally, guys. My dad, he didn't pass or anything, but he was young. And it's a hard thing, but somehow I was able to see some positive in it. And it's kind of crazy when that's all going on because, like with my dad, he had an aneurysm and stuff like that, and he
very similar to a stroke.
Very similar, and it ended up. We thought it was an aneurysm, but it ended up being an arterial dissection. Anybody medical probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. The inner and outer wall of your artery separates and it leaks. So it was a birth defect, and it was in the main part of his artery to his brain, and so they didn't know what to do. They couldn't do anything basically, and of course the doctor, he had to get airlifted and all that. And I pulled the doctor aside. Hey, what's the chance? He said, listen, if he doesn't stop bleeding on his own by the time he gets to the hospital, he's going to be dead. I mean, that's just what he said to me. Well, he didn't. And so we get there and we start going down those things, and we ended up putting a stent in his brain. And he's the first person. He's actually,
wow.
He's in the medical books. He's the first person to ever have a stent put in that part of your body. And
that's frightening.
They didn't even have,
honestly.
They didn't even have stents back then for brains. They had to use a heart stent. So that's what they did back then. But not to go too much into detail here, but he was he didn't know who he was for 2 weeks. He had me and my cousin running laps and seeing pink elephants with purple balls and all kinds of crazy stuff, dude. I mean, that's the kind of positive stuff you can pull out of that, is what I'm trying to say. Because that was funny. I mean, let's just face it. That's funny. When your dad looks at you and your cousin thinks you're the coach, he's a coach and he's making you run laps. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, my dad had one day where he said in the laundry there are turbines and a couple of handguns, and we were like, what the hell did you just say? So my mom was fairly convinced that he was having a stroke and said, you need to get over here fast.
Right.
And when I got there, it was kind of funny because like everything he was saying, he was lucid as hell. This wasn't stroke stuff. He wasn't slurring. So I went, Dad, did you take any medication today? And he's like, yeah, I took 2 of those sleeping pills they gave me. They don't do a thing. I said, what kind of sleeping pills were they? He said Ambien.
Oh.
And this is a common thing. They've backed off on Ambien for this reason. But my dad, in the hospital, they gave him Ambien, not knowing that he had already had a bad response. And we were trying to get him something to drink. And when my mom gave it to him, he said, you take a drink first. He thought he was being poisoned and everyone was out to get him. We gave him a lot of crap about it for years afterwards. Niall has a good comment. He said, it's hard to generalize dreams. And I absolutely agree with him.
Yes.
But suffering vivid dreams after years of suppressing our dreams is normal. And what is dumped in is what we feel bad about. Being lost in a city is the most common in terms of dreams. He makes a really, really excellent point. We suppress dreams. That's not a conscious thing that we do to try to suppress dreams. What happens is when you're using drugs, and doing it a lot, you don't remember your dreams. Again, it's not that you're not dreaming, but you don't remember them. And he's right. It's a way of suppressing these things with drugs and not thinking about them. Again, it's your subconscious way of trying to work through things. It's pretty good if you can think about them, right? They're a lot healthier. They can do a lot more for you if your conscious mind and your unconscious mind can at least try to get together on the same page. I remember really, really weird dreams when I got sober. Really weird dreams. And very often, I mean, it's pretty common stuff like, you just got high because it's just terrifying. I mean, what's going on in your mind. If you start doing drugs in your dream, it's something that obviously you're really scared about. Thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
Love Charlie.
Charlie's awesome. All right, guys, we are at the top. So we're going to go ahead and end the show here. Hey, it's been a really good show. I don't know about you, Tommy. I really enjoyed it tonight. Thank you guys for, you basically brought the show tonight. like you do most nights. So it's just awesome. Awesome.
It is a lot of fun when you guys are engaged. It's definitely a good time.
Yep. A lot of good stuff in there too. I mean, everybody's there for everybody, and they've been just commenting on everything. There's actually been a lot of side conversations going on, and it's all been appropriate too. You know, guys, not often.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Drop says, I got one more for the road. Drop says, do not look down at the down and out folks. The first thing they lose is their id and ability to have an address, ID and ability to have an address. Look to churches for that. They will help. You know what? My experience has been people who are down and out and people who are living on the street. If it's not drugs, it's mental illness. And that's, I mean, pretty much across the board. And I have a whole lot of compassion for people that are suffering from either. So
hit that like, hit that like button too on the way out, guys. Please.
You know what? Really wouldn't bother me, right?
It really does help.
It really does help. And you know what? If you're not subscribed to the Lifeboat, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Right?
That's right.
It does an awful lot to help this, and the further we can push out, the more people we can help. Josh B, we love you. We're glad that you're here. All right, everybody.
Take 30 seconds. Come back to the video and drop a comment. That actually, believe it or not, that helps push it out after the video's over. So
it really does. The big red button likes to know that we're all talking to one another, and we answer every comment. So pop in. It does help. All righty, people. We're going to be back tomorrow night, same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. Right? It's what we do. I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and on the other side of the glass,
Captain Mark Wages.
This here, that's a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.